In First Steps Conversations, Session 4, we talk about the Bible, and we focus on memorizing life verses, specific life verses that through which you're going to find freedom in your life. Now, why do you need life verses? Is because you have life issues. Everyone has a life issue. It is an issue that you stumble over again and again. It seemingly defeats you all the time, and you're frustrated with it. And the solution to life issues are life verses. Now, in our following Jesus, there are things that God sets you free from instantaneously. When I first became a believer in Christ, I was addicted to drugs, and when I accepted Jesus, New Year's Eve 1971, 1972, I was just instantly delivered. It was gone. Have never done drugs since and never had desire to do drugs. God instantly set me free. But also in my life, there has been a life issue that I have dealt with my entire Christian life for 50 years. But early on, I memorized my life verses, which I go over and over again, and I have never significantly stumbled. So as we begin to talk about life issues, I want you to consider what your life issue would be. And we find the life issues that are listed in 1 John chapter 2:16. For all that is in the world. In other words, this particular verse summarizes everything that is in the world. All the sin, all the rebellion, everything that is in the world can be categorized in three different ways. For all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life is not from the Father, but is from the world. I'm just going to refocus us again on this particular verse. For all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, and the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life is not from the Father, but is from the world. Now, what are these three areas? The lust of the flesh would be sensuality, something that you can become addicted to. The lust of the eyes would be what you observe and what you desire. And often if you have lust of the eyes, you overspend, you don't hold a budget together, and your life just falls apart with money. It's materialism. And then there's pride of life. It can be arrogance. It can be anger. And so what particular area do you have in your life that you continue to stumble over? It's a struggle for you. It's either lust of the flesh, lust of the eyes, or the boastful pride of life. And so there are three questions that you can ask that I want to ask you personally. What temptation won't go away? What causes me to stumble again and again? And what causes the most feelings of guilt and condemnation? I want to ask these questions again. I want you to think. This is a moment, because it's so important that you realize your life issues and then consider the specific life verses, because that is what we teach you in Session 4. Your life issues, you'll learn what they are, and then you'll learn specific verses that you can memorize that are the solution to those life issues. And if you understand life issues and then you memorize your life verses, the Lord will set you free. That's so important that you get this right. And so let me ask you, what temptation in your life won't go away? Is it in the area of lust of the flesh? Is it in the area of lust of the eyes? Or is it in the area of pride of life? What causes you to stumble again and again? And also, what causes the most feelings of guilt and condemnation? In Session 4, the Bible of First Steps Conversations, we help you understand your life issues and the specific life verses that will set you free. Again, it says in 1 John 2:16, for all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life is not from the Father, but is from the world. The Lord wants to set you free. You know, I was in a prison once. I was in a prison. I was an inmate. I was teaching this particular conference to a group of inmates. And let me just set the background. The inmates were all murderers. They were life sentences. And they had asked me to come in and teach about first steps. And I come to this particular message on life issues and also life verses. And the entire time that I was teaching throughout the day, because this was Session 4 and I've been teaching about an hour until this time, there was one particular inmate that was large, had a lot of respect. I mean, he was a big guy and he had a lot of respect, didn't say anything. In fact, the only thing that he did was glare at me. And a little intimidating. And when I finished with this particular section of teaching, he raised his hand and he said, I have something to say. And he began standing. And as he stood, the whole room went quiet. That's how much respect that this man had. And he looked at me. You need to understand, I'm locked in a room. All these guys are life sentence for murder. And he looked at me and he said, I have an anger problem. Now, maybe you can sense the humor in that. I'm locked in a room with this guy, and he's a murderer, and he has an anger problem. But then he said this, that is my life issue. And this is the first time that I've admitted it. And what I'm going to do now is memorize my life verses. And I know that God will set me free.